I want to know what wisdom means according to the Quran. One of the most important places you will go to is going to be Surah Al-Isra, ayahs number 23 to 40. Here Allah will make a list of things, and at the end of that list of things He will say, ذَلِكَ مِمَّا أَوْحَى إِلَيْكَ رَبُّكَ مِنَ الْحِكْمَةِ. That is what your master revealed to you from Hikmah. Meaning this list of stuff is all what? Hikmah according to the Quran. So there's two people I talked about that kind of had wisdom that wasn't revelation-based wisdom. Of course, Dawood is a prophet, alayhi salam, but the wisdom that Allah talked about was experience-based, not revelation-based. And the wisdom of Luqman is also, in a sense, light. Interesting is, before Islam, Luqman was a famous person that was referenced among the Arabs. You know how, like, when you talk about a genius, you're like, oh, look, Einstein over here. You know how we say that? And Einstein became kind of a word for a genius, right? Or somebody speaks really good English. Oh, look at that, Shakespeare. You know, so when we do that, we take these people and we make them coined phrases. Like that, when someone's super wise or really well spoken among the Arabs, they'd be like, oh, look at that, Luqman, huh? Like that's what they would do. Luqman was like an expression for someone who's really wise, really well spoken, a really good judge. And the story about Luqman among them, according to some, he's from Ad. They would make poetry about him. They would make references to him. He was a king and he was also very wise, right? And he would solve a lot of disputes. What's interesting is the story of Dawood in the Quran has some connection to how the Arabs used to think about Luqman. Why? Because Dawood is also a king and Luqman was also a king. Dawood is also wise according to the Quran, and Luqman according to the Arabs is also wise. And then Dawood alayhi salam dealt with groups of people that were arguing with each other, khasm. And in poetry you find Luqman is dealing with people that have arguments with each other and he's helping make judgments between them with khasm. Same word in poetry in Arabic before Islam. And similarly, he's described, Dawood alayhi salam was described with really powerful speech, faslul khitab. And even before Islam, fasli khitabihi al-hakima was used to describe Luqman. Luqman was really powerful in the way he expressed himself. Almost the same expression that the Quran used was already used for who? For Luqman. And finally, we see hikmah being used for Dawood alayhi salam and hukuma, another word for wisdom, being used in poetry for Luqman. Now, the reason I'm saying that is, it's interesting that the Quran already knows that the Arabs, when they hear these words, they know famous poems about Luqman. And so Allah wants to make a connection between Dawood and who? Dawood and Luqman. And it's pretty cool that later on when Allah talks about Luqman, there's a connection also between Dawood and Luqman in the Quran. So what Allah is doing is, He's acknowledging the culture of the Arabs, the poetry of the Arabs, the art of the Arabs, the storytelling of the Arabs, and He's using that to communicate with them. And this is an important wisdom of the Quran. If you want to communicate with someone, you should know something about their culture. If you want to effectively get through to somebody, you should know something about their history, something about, what they're like, what their language is like. And language changes so quickly, right? So the language of, my language, apparently English, is not the same as Gen Z language. No cap. It's not the same. Okay, that's a different language altogether. When I was in high school and somebody said no cap, I said it's not allowed in school. I don't know what you want me to do. I thought they're talking about a kufi or something else, but the language and expression changes. So if you're like, you want to talk to the youth or you want to talk to this group or that group, you need to know something about their culture. You need to know something about them and something about the way they communicate with each other, right? And that's, again, kind of an embedded wisdom that we're being taught. Okay, let's move on. Now we're going to get to the juicy part. I promised you juicy parts today. Surah Al-Isra. Surah Al-Isra is surah number 17. This is a place in the Quran that's very important if you're a student of this subject. I want to know what wisdom means. I want to know what wisdom means according to the Quran. One of the most important places you will go to is going to be Surah Al-Isra, ayahs number 23 to 40. Here Allah will make a list of things, and at the end of that list of things He will say, ذَلِكَ مِمَّا أَوْحَى إِلَيْكَ رَبُّكَ مِنَ الْحِكْمَةِ. That is what your master revealed to you from Hikmah. Meaning this list of stuff is all what? Hikmah according to the Quran. Have you ever heard of the 10 Commandments? Okay, the Moses was given the 10 Commandments, right? What you might not know is over the course of Jewish history, there were different versions of the 10 Commandments. It went through different edits. So they didn't have this, you have at least 3 different versions over the course of history of the same 10 Commandments. These ayat, 23 to 40, is the Quran's reconstruction of the 10 Commandments given to Musa. It's actually the Quran's version of the 10 Commandments. So these 10 Commandments over time, this is a statement I'm taking from his paper. Philos he's a theologian, a philosopher, a Jewish philosopher. His presentation of the law of Musa as both natural and wise has been well documented. There's a book that's about this subject, meaning they're saying that these 10 Commandments in the Bible are wisdom. They're wisdom. And Allah will say about that same passage, at the end He will say, this is what I have given to you from what? Wisdom. So the Jews have been saying this, and now the Quran is saying, by the way, what you have had all along, you had one version, then you edited it, then you edited it. By the way, you don't need any more edits. I'm giving you the final version of what Hikmah is. So it's like it went through multiple evolutions. Like, you know how software gets updated? This is the final update, and that's the Quran. So the Quran is not even presenting itself as a new religion to the Jews. It's saying it's the final update to the revelation that you've had all along. That's how it's presenting itself, which is pretty cool.